Okay. Five, 4, 2. Okay, all right, we're gonna start right now. There's no one. That's great.
Hey everybody, Lore here. We're just about to get started.
Okay.
We're doing something a little bit different today.
Technical
We're doing a story and lore live stream. It's
well,
a
you
little
already
bit different
said that
from our
because
normal
you're here.
Q&As. We've got Steve Denuser and Taryn Gregory on, who are going to be talking to you guys a little bit about how we tell stories in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
So without further ado, go ahead and take it away, Taryn and Steve.
Okay.
So what happens after they die?
Well, this is such a major character. We really want her death to be impactful, and we want that funeral to be... Oh, hey.
Are we live?
Hey,
Okay.
We're live.
Hey,
I already like him. I already like
are
him,
you?
man. This is good.
Hey, everyone.
This is
My name's
good.
Taryn Gregory. I am
right.
a cinematic project director with Blizzard Animation.
Yeah, this
I've
is
been
funny.
working on World of Warcraft since joining Blizzard in 2006.
Wow.
In the early days, I started by
So this
working
guy,
on
he knows the
trailers
game.
like the Black Temple for patch 2.1,
Also scripted.
the Wrathgate in Wrath of the Lich King, Fall of the Lich King, and many, many,
All
many
right.
more in-game cinematics in the years since
So
then.
this guy does cinematics.
Yeah, and I'm Steve Denuser, so I'm a senior narrative designer on World of Warcraft, and that means
So you
I do a lot of
Garrosh.
story stuff. So I help kind of plot out the story points for our patches
Okay.
and upcoming expansions. I work with our quest designers to take their quest text and dialogue and polish that up. I go into
Okay.
the sound booth and help record that to bring those characters to life. And write the odd thing here and there.
You killed
occasionally a
Garrosh.
short story
That's what
or
you did.
plot of comics, stuff like that. It's a lot of different things.
Writing many things. So today, with our first story and lore dev stream, we're going to start by talking a little bit about what we do, how we do it, how the teams work together, and dive in a little bit into that first.
Okay.
Hopefully this is the first of more lore streams that we get to do in the future and dive a little bit more into this
They're
content.
saying that because it's easier than going
so
to work. Just sitting in
when we
front of
work
the-
together,
this is
you know,
great for them.
cinematics, game design,
This is the
quest
best
design,
day all month.
there's some impressions of how that goes down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about how it actually works.
Yeah,
too-
it's
Let me turn my.
you know,
I'll turn it
everything
down a little
at
bit.
Blizzard is about iteration, and this is no different. Our story
Right.
is something that we have a lot of people who are super invested in and care about.
That should be better,
and it's
right?
something that we kind of lovingly shepherd through this long
Perfect.
process
Okay, great.
of talking about. So the story that happens in game is actually planned out months and months and sometimes years in advance. And so it's what we're always trying to do is figure out the story that we want to tell, how we think
How
that
long
will
did
be
it take to
cool,
plan why?
and then once we start getting into the nitty-gritty of it is when we decide, hey, what's the best format for telling these different parts of the story? And we have we kind of have all these tools in our storytelling toolbox. So we have obviously in-game things like quests and action and fights and raids and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a lot of stuff that is also in-game but a little different, and that's the cinematic stuff where we really get to dig into the emotional aspect. So what makes for a great cinematic experience in World of Warcraft, in your opinion?
We've talked about this in the
If
past.
the game's
but
good.
For me, Blizzard itself has had a cinematic
John.
vocabulary
Oh,
as long as
jeez.
they've been making games, all the way back to
man.
StarCraft, Warcraft, and whatnot. Cinematics have always functioned as a kind of big symbol crash at the end of an experience. Those who played StarCraft 1 and Warcraft 1, it always felt like when a cinematic fired, it meant that something really important
Something big
was
is
about
gonna
to go
happen.
down,
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
This is going to be meaningful, and that's kind of where we started.
Someone's
pushing,
typing like the,
WoW
the
too,
in-
since
the
the
bad
Wrathgate.
word in
Like,
chat.
I think with that first cinematic, there's a lot of people with fond memories because it wasn't expected, right? They were playing through Wrath of the Lich King, and out of nowhere, the screen went black for 1 second, and boom!
I thought my
it was
game
a
crashed.
shaking
100%.
reminder of like, whoa, there actually
Yeah.
is this like really profound story payoff
That's right.
with Arthas coming out of that. And ever since then, we've
That's
wanted
fucking
to make
right.
sure that the cinematic moments as they fire in game usually feel like, oh, this is really important.
Okay.
Whereas sometimes other narrative structures, they start using cinematic type content very frequently. We always want to make sure that it's relegated to kind of the highest equity, most important moments that occur. And we saw
Well, yeah,
a lot of
because it
those
takes
during
time to
Battle for
make.
Azeroth.
So why would you?
Yeah,
Oh, it's a
totally.
cinematic of a guy picking
what
up
I think
a
is
brick.
cool is that there's things
gives
that
a fuck?
gameplay is good at telling as far as
Okay.
stories go. So you know, we have these phenomenal artists who build these great great-looking zones and towns and villages.
True. The artistry is amazing.
And so when a player comes into those areas, there's kind of ambient storytelling happening, and we get to we can feel like who's attacking here, what's going on, what these people
is the best example of this, and also Stormsong Valley. They did a very good job at this.
You through, but what the game isn't as good at is those really emotional moments where the story hinges on a character's expression or something that they say, and we see the reactions of those around them, and that's where cinematic strength really comes through.
There it is.
Absolutely.
There it is, dude.
And we've had so many different cinematic mediums in Battle for Azeroth this time around, from the 2.5D motion story, artwork pieces with Jaina and the song, to the high fidelity CGI renders like Old Soldier, directed by Mark Messenger, and Doug Gregory had directed the 2.5D. And the in-game cinematics, all the way from the pre-patch through the questing experience.
Talk about Ragnaros
to try to thread the narrative through and really support what the game is doing. Let's talk a little bit about our teams.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in these live streams, you get a couple people in front of you that represent their teams, but there's a lot of people who work on story and quest and cinematics and CDev and books and comics and everything. So let's talk about them for a second.
Yeah. Like on the quest side of it, so we have this phenomenal team of 20-some. I lose count because it seems like we've been growing so much over the years. But we have this really wide-ranging group of people that all have different levels of they all love WoW, and they all come in bringing these ideas. Some of them have been on the team for a really long time. Some are fresh.
Let's get another Scepter of the Shifting Sands quest line. Come on, man.
And so we really have this kind of canvas that's
killing 12
laid out
demons
for
and
everyone.
Argus
For
shit.
example, in Battle for Azeroth, we knew we were going to Kaltiris and Zandalar. And so we really started digging in. We got our designers to think about, okay, we've got these great places, we've got these great scenes, we've got all these history in a lot of these places, because these were places that were rich with lore already. They had been talked about in game for a really long time.
All the way back to Warcraft 2, right? Yeah. Like especially like Kultiris and both of them.
I was actually really happy to see.
Whoa, these are kingdoms that we've known and have been alluded to since the earliest days, and it's really exciting to kind of open up the door and see what's there.
They did a good job with the narrative on the Alliance side, I would say, especially
following
for
through on the fantasy that's been built up for so long.
Nobody cares about the
war effort. That's one of the principal
though.
challenges of working in WoW is that a lot of things that we reveal, they're not just new; they're actually things that have been anticipated for years, if not decades.
Yes. That's a thank goodness we have such great historians on our team, because they can remind us, hey, we're going to Kultiris and Zandalar. Anything we should know about? Anything we should remember? And there's tons of stuff. So it's great to be.
That's good. We have that B-roll
footage. Custodians.
There we
of this
go.
Great storyline and this great world, and we really want to make sure that the stories we tell as we go forward kind of honor those traditions of World of Warcraft and take us to new places as well. So it's really great on the quest side, where folks can dig in and think about not only
these guys
these
seem
big
really
meta
passionate
stories of what's going on in this war, and this
it seems like they really want to be there.
The planet itself, but also take it down to the personal level and really see how these people who inhabit this world, they all have the same kind of hopes and fears and dreams that we had.
And then the other guy that's going
bald. World. And so a quest designer's job is part of making these big stories relatable.
I understand.
And then as we're working on that stuff, we're also thinking about, okay, so as we've got these quests moving through these areas, what kinds of cinematic ideas would be great to have here? What are these really high equity moments, like you said, that would really benefit from having a more cinematic eye come in and help it? And that's where your team comes in.
Yeah, I think in Battle for Azeroth, and even recent expansions like Legion, we've seen more of an integrated collaboration in the development of not just cinematics but the narrative as a whole.
This
back
is true.
To an example,
like WoD was the first time they did this
in Legion, where the gathering of the Horde and the Alliance really demonstrated a different kind of storytelling.
Yes.
This coincided with, we started bringing the developers together with the people in creative development and cinematics and animation, and instead of just being at the end of the chain where it's like, oh, the stories have been developed, we need you guys to make a movie, it was more of like, guys, we have some needs, we have some goals, let's get together, let's hash these out and find out a good way to do this. And that's kind of where the epilogues initially that rested out was, we felt that it was an
that's like the end of story cinematics
we had just been
of like every zone. I think those are the epilogues that they're talking about.
Dark Titans. How are we going to bring
spoilers?
If you guys aren't up to that
safe.
point, I'm really sorry. But how do we bring this back down to a terrestrial conflict?
I already look at these guys.
Was right at the same time.
They're being passively
Golden
elitist.
joined our team.
Fuck yeah.
Over in,
this is great.
Creative development and animation, where she was working on Before the Storm.
Okay.
And coincidentally, we'd identified the need for something to bridge that, and she was working on that novel. And we're like, actually, the first scene kind of is functional in both manners. So it was a great bridge to start bringing that together.
Okay.
But let's just talk about some of the characters that we started developing in Battle for Azeroth.
Why don't you talk about how you ruined
characters
Garrosh?
And there were new characters.
Yeah, so we had some ideas going in.
Yeah, what about that?
Certain stories we wanted to tell and certain
Can we get a sorry?
characters that we wanted to kind of rise to the forefront. And obviously, if you're going to Kultiris,
okay,
there's a character that's been in
there's
the franchise.
There's a very famous Kultiran.
A very famous Kultiran.
Can't think of who it is right now.
Yeah,
Rexar.
But we've got to bring her to the forefront. It was a great opportunity to bring Jaina Proudmoore back into the picture in a big way and make her a fundamental part of this expansion. And Jaina's story has kind of have bobbed and weaved over the years. She's been through a lot, so many tragedies, so many things that
bobbed
took her
in
from being
and out
this kind
and weaved in and out of
real
being
diplomat
relevant
of the Alliance into being someone who was a bit more vengeful and a bit more like
going from being Arthas's weak girlfriend to being a crazy bitch to now for some reason actually being a good character.
Opportunity to kind of take those pieces of Jaina, lay them out, and set a path forward for how we can kind of get her back into the fold and kind of get all of these kind of disparate threads that had been weaving through her character into a cohesive whole and make her someone who's awesome and fundamental to the world.
They did a good job with that.
Of course, Jaina being one of the
they did do a good job.
Canon characters from the original Warcraft 3, and she's been through so many bobs and weaves, as you've been saying, that it could be hard to keep up with, right? Like, she was the veritable mage next door, in Warcraft 3, young, bright-eyed, excited, and then with all the things that have happened to her, it was
not
almost difficult to keep up. And so part of our goal in Battle for Azeroth was to crystallize, condense, and reunify the impression of who she is, what she's doing, what her intentions are, which we took through a multitude from her Warbringers series all the way through the in-game cinematics and the questing experience, taking her through Thros.
I think Jaina was done
so that
well
was a great example of how we had we kind of came in with here's what we want to do. We want to use her as a character. We've got all these lands of Kultiris that we need to go through and have this story play out. And we started talking, really collaborating about now let's identify those key moments that are going to be so impactful. We really want these cinematic moments, and there's so many of them. From the very beginning, if you play an Alliance in BFA. You get that experience of seeing that doubt in her heart as she's sailing to Kultiris for the first time, and as you're walking through the town, all those moments of seeing how people react.
They need to change the way they do the character models.
And
I think that would be easier for them to convey emotion.
So many years. Such great performances.
I think they could do that. Be a lot better.
Wonderful drama
for the cinematics,
that played out there, and you guys nailed those cinematics so well.
And funny enough, you and I get to work with the voice actors a lot. Like, you're usually representing the quest team and recording with our talent, and I get to work with the talent on the cinematic side. We had such an incredible cast of characters this time around. Working with them was awesome.
Yeah. I hope you got to check out the voice actor stage from this last BlizzCon, where we had many of the BFA actors on board. People like Indira Varma, who plays Catherine. We had Laura Bailey, who plays Jaina Proudmoore, and she sang the song live on stage.
Alex Dessert, who played Bwonsamdi. And Scroll Sage Nola.
Strange. She got people loved her. It was so awesome to see that reaction to her.
The turtle made it to the water.
She was such a warm soul and just awesome. It was really great. All these people were awesome.
Speaking of that,
we had
my mom bought me this for Christmas.
Sylvanas there, all these great people.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The little turtles on the Horde side,
she brought me little turtles.
Epilogue. We were able to kind of start to create some pointers on it. Who are going to be the rogues cast the gallery for Battle for Azeroth? And we saw Bane, we saw Saurfang, we saw Nathanos, and we saw Sylvanas.
I haven't decided how I want to put them up yet.
As the story moves forward, we see those characters continue to bob and weave back around.
Yeah, she put it in my stocking.
On confrontation when Bane and Sylvanas were talking. What's that been like with the Horde side? Developing those characters.
Well,
you killed
that's
Garrosh,
been a lot of fun as well.
And also, you're going to kill Sylvanas.
People have strong feelings about the state of the Horde right now and what's going on. We have, it is such a history, you know.
Bring back Thrall.
The Horde is again a foundational pillar of
Warcraft 3 Thrall, not that WoW bitch.
And so we wanted to tell a very
bring
you know,
back
the Horde's
Thrall.
been through a lot, obviously, before things with the rise and fall of Garrosh Hellscream,
and even farther
back.
All
right, here we go.
I sometimes think.
All right, here we go.
Warcraft 3's main story began with at its lowest point, right? Like they had literally just been decimated. When you know that started coming. together
that's why they suck. That's why.
Strife, right?
Why would you play Horde? They just get decimated all the time. That shit never happens to Alliance.
And that kind of conflict allowed us to really show some diverse personalities and perspectives on the Horde, and that's one of the things that really inspired the Old Soldier cinematic, for example, is to show that you know, the old Horde of Saurfang who has that sense of honor and duty in his heart, versus you know, Sylvanas, a fairly new war chief, coming in and wanting conquest and control over Azerites and over territory and things like that, and how those two philosophies are at odds sometimes, and that's a story that obviously we began to touch on, but it will be ongoing throughout the expansion. But it gives a lot of interesting questions and story hooks and things like that.
And that was really good.
Saurfang as a vehicle for that is so fascinating, because when you really delve into the past of Saurfang, he has seen everything, right? He fought with the Orcish Horde back on Draenor in the sieges when they were under the thrall of the bloodlust of the demons.
You said thrall.
Yeah, I didn't want to use it. Under the thrall. Not Thrall himself, but under the direction of the Burning Legion. The siege of Shatrath all the way back in the day. He would have been there as one of the Orcish Horde, so he's seen...
He's seen some shit.
Fought war after war.
Okay, let's just be real. He's seen some shit.
And so all of that history coming with him when he's standing on that wall, and that scene, of course, directed by Mark Messenger and written by Matt Burns, it was just so resonantly powerful. I think it came at such a strong time to really hit in the heart of the players that were feeling like war is heck. War is heck.
but that and the Old Soldier cinematic is a
come on, guys. So we can curse on it. It's not a big deal. You're not going to get banned.
Like Jaina, like Saurfang, who are deeply established in the lore of World of Warcraft, and who have a lot of history behind them that we need to acknowledge and pay off. But we also have some fresh faces, new characters. Zakan, Zappy Boy, came about.
Zappy Boy
really rose to prominence.
Fan favorite.
Yeah, a fan favorite. People really gravitated to him, and so it's interesting. Let's talk about a little bit about how we come up with some of these new characters and how the different processes we have as creatives actually help develop them in ways that we didn't anticipate at first.
Of course, and in case you missed the live stream at or it was the DirecTV. It's not DirecTV this time. What is the live stream at BlizzCon? It's the virtual ticket.
Yes, virtual ticket.
Apologies. The virtual ticket at BlizzCon for the cinematics panel. We did talk a little bit about how Zakan, Zappy Boy, a lot of people had the question was us putting him in Old Soldier a reaction to the fan reaction?
Oh yeah, I'm curious about this.
We were really, really excited that the fans were just as into him as we were, but we were already in flight and using him because it was very intuitive. It was like he needs this lieutenant character to go with him on his journey, and lo and behold,
you killed all the other
right
ones
next to him in the original Battle for Azeroth.
There are no other trolls in the game. You killed them all.
And so while we're
you need to add another troll.
Secret material, we saw the forums lighting up with excitement about this character. We're like, oh, this is just going to work out beautifully.
Yeah,
it does. And sometimes it's a happy coincidence like that.
It's a happy
yes.
And you know, that's one of the realities of how we work, especially with those pre-rendered cinematics, is they take so long. We have to work so far in advance to get them that even if if a character blows up kind of in fan reaction to that, we don't really have time to shift everything and say, oh, throw that one out, let's make a new model for this other character.
I wonder how long it takes them to make one of those.
What we do have a little more flexibility in game.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
And so when the time came to make some of the quests that are in Tides of Vengeance, our most recent update, that you may have played, I won't go into spoiler territory, but we continue the Saurfang story, and Zakan shows up in that. And so his appearance there was in part informed by, hey, we've got a character that people can really relate to, and he brings a different perspective on the Horde, this is a perfect opportunity to use him. So we can be kind of agile in some areas, especially in the game.
I like that a lot.
The contrast, of course, between Saurfang, literally the oldest, who has seen everything, and then this young, fresh face, who's new to the Horde, represents this youthful element, and like the two worlds at odds with each other. It's fascinating.
The juxtaposition was very good. You guys did a great
some other
job.
New characters,
I like the cinematic
favorites of Battle for Azeroth so far. Bwonsamdi.
Zombie.
Pops right up.
Okay.
So it's interesting because his name had been around. He'd been referred to in game.
I think he had a couple lines all the way back in 4.1.
Bob Salami,
right?
Like, yes.
The infamous Loa of death.
But pretty, for the most part,
very
dangerous
dangerous
slate.
Yes.
And so we kind of came up with a concept for him. We thought about some kind of archetypal imagery for him and how he would act and things like that. But this is a case where
he acts like a Rastafarian, basically, like all the other ones.
That actor so inhabited a character that it just started informing how we write him, where we want him to show up, and we're just like, more.
That makes sense. That's actually really good.
Alex Desert is just such a phenomenal dude. I got to sit next to him. We did a little autograph thing.
He is so cool.
The voice actor panel.
He is so cool.
And I sat there by him, and he does that Bwonsamdi kind of.
Oh wow! I don't think I ever saw that
little
cinematic.
Teeth-sucking sound.
Or I guess I never saw the beginning.
So cool. I've tried to do it ever since then. I'm terrible at it, so I apologize. But Alex is a sweetheart and just such a great guy. But it gives us such a spark when we get that performance and we hear things from the actor, and they're really our collaborators when we're in that vocal booth, because we come in with an idea of this is kind of we have the dialogue written and we know what the scene is, but once the actor really digs in, it makes us hear things that we I know I don't have those in my mind coming in. It's like some new, oh wow, that's a great spark. That's
just a force multiplier.
It's good that they do that,
like,
actually.
Oh, you thought
that way it's not just like
this.
Completely all
and
like
thing is
predetermined.
We don't get to express a lot, just candidly, is that we also fall in love with these characters, right? Like Bwonsamdi, from the earliest times when we knew that the main storyline with Talanji and Rastakhan was going to pass through, a deal with Bwonsamdi, we were immediately stricken with just like, oh, the Loa of death. Like, this is just a fascinating prospect. So already excited about working with that as a narrative construct, but then as the character started becoming fleshed out and he started becoming this trickster, which we don't have a lot of tricksters in World of Warcraft. It's not a common archetype.
Well, that's actually true.
So
now that I think about it,
and new and interesting.
We've got Rathion
kind of this ball rolling, and then of course Alex came in.
Whatever happened to him?
And I think it actually did inform, like, almost going back and doing an iterative cycle and continuing to push through, right?
Yeah.
And working with Christy. Christy, of course, wrote the dialogue for dialogue and script for the Bwonsamdi and Rastakhan scene.
Loki is just an asshole.
Let's make a deal.
Or Loken in the game.
And her
he's just an
nuance
asshole.
with the way that he spoke.
He's not a trickster. He's just a dick.
He's
like, hey, here's a trick. I microwaved your hamster. And then he runs away.
She has just been a treat as well, and it's great to have another powerful female presence in there.
Here we go.
To see her and Bwonsamdi interact, you're going to see a lot more of that going forward. Again, no spoilers. We're just tipping the iceberg a little bit, but there is some great stuff coming up, and to see her kind of work through the things, her land in turmoil. She's kind of this rebel character that's striking out and pulling in the Horde when there's others saying she shouldn't do that. Seeing her growth and rise as a character is super cool, and more awesome stuff coming.
Yeah, she's definitely a really good example of it, like a brand new character that we just hadn't been exposed to previously, and it can be challenging narratively to be like, okay, we got to get people up to speed and bought in with this character, like right from the beginning of the game. So when we were looking at that experience of liberating her from Stormwind and that journey back home, and then just elevating, like,
it's Troll Jaina.
Initial pitch session.
By the way,
like,
for anybody, it's Troll Jaina, Priestess Talanji,
and then she summons a giant water, wind, dinosaur force, and everyone was looking like, that sounds cool, but how are you going to do that? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's going to be awesome. And luckily, everyone thought it was going to be awesome, and so we went and made a water, wind, dinosaur Loa, and it definitely gave something to, oh, she's powerful, she's mighty, and she's capable of defending her people. Right?
Okay.
And of course, it introduced the concept of Loa and their relationship.
Makes sense.
With Razan was helpful to elucidate through that scene, which was kind of a preview, a little tiny preview for it. By the way, these people's relationship with Erloa is really important in Zandalar as a whole. Just a little
yeah,
hint.
that cinematic did so much to set the stage for what was to come. It set up so many relationships, and that's one of the strengths of
I hope they take questions at the end
in a very short time.
That'd be awesome.
Kind of set up a number of things that will kind of hook into the player's mind, and then we pay those off through questing. So we go from that cinematic into showing that relationship between Talanji and her father, how that's, you know, the contention
her
there,
dad sold her
some
out.
of the things with the Zanchuli Council, and how
come on, let's be real, man,
and have their own. It just
that was some dog
set
shit.
The stage for a lot of stuff that then quests get to kind of finish off some of those stories, or tell the actiony bits of those stories.
For sure. So I actually didn't get to work with Flynn personally because he wasn't in any of the high-end cutscenes this time around. Maybe we'll look at that in the future. But
do you guys like Flynn or not?
Flynn together?
Flynn was awesome. We knew our great designers who worked on Kultiris,
you guys like him?
Knew that we needed this kind of this
right.
roguish, pluckish rogue, adventurous type. Kind of shady past, but a good heart. But you know, if he's got opportunities to do things, so it was just such a rich.
So he's
character.
a good boy, but he's a bad boy at the same time.
Scenes with someone like Talia, another Talia Foredragon, another new character. She being of this pure noble, want to do the right thing. Him being the
but her dad's the Lich King.
Ne'er do well. But they're friends and they care about each other, and they got to show that. So having those quests where you're out with them, doing all these bits of daring do and trying to save Kultiris, that's just a great way to build up equity in those characters over time. So you get those little jokes, the little asides, all that kind of stuff.
The escort quest with Flynn, man. I'll never get over that.
Yeah, Flynn, you know, he likes a drink of, I'm sure it's tea or something, a strong brew. But again, actors' performances, just bringing those characters to life. Just so fun once you dig in and see all these pieces come together.
He's the Han Solo of WoW.
Doing quest design is once you get all the pieces together, we have a great music team.
That's acceptable.
Who just made those.
How can I complain about that?
Kultiris and Zandalar, just so rich and come to life.
So good.
When it all comes together, it blows our minds too as we're playing through it and testing
Truly
it.
incredible.
It's so awesome.
Yes. So one thing that was pretty new narratively in Battle for Azeroth is it felt very like big sequential storytelling, right? Like this is definitely migrating in a direction that we're trying something new. On the cinematic side, this was very evident from Jaina. You know, actually having what felt like chapter points where we saw her nightmare as she was sailing, and then her confrontation with her mother, and then of course the realm of Thros, which man, storyboarding that was crazy because we were bringing all of these characters together. Her father, Arthas. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet. Yeah. And just being able to tell these story in chapter points was really exciting because it meant we got to spend more narratively invested in each moment instead of just having to like dump it all at once, right?
Yeah, we've definitely seen an evolution in WoW storytelling, I think, since the beginning. Obviously, the tools we work with, again, that storytelling toolbox of things has gotten so much richer and deeper over the years. So those early days of WoW where really they could just kind of put the quests in the world and kind of have, here's a village and here's 16
let's talk about some of the characters,
points.
Man.
Go get them and then go around.
What about the Lich King?
Into now we have
what about Rathian?
Unfolding story that we
cares about Jaina,
and we've
done things in Priestess Talanji gives a
show
fuck.
That hey, you're on this chapter of the story.
What about the Lich King, man?
Here's what's to come, that kind of stuff, and that's something we want to keep evolving going forward to make that an even richer experience. And I think to your point, especially going from say an early expansion like Wrath of the Lich King, it felt very, it was cool and it had this story through it, but it was very self-contained, and it was like, here's the expansion, it began, it ended, now we're on to the next thing. Whereas more of our recent expansions, we think about how does this one lead into the next one? What are the story arcs? Taking Gul'dan as Archimonde flings him back to Azeroth. What's that story? How does that lead into the Burning Legion coming in? And how does the ending cinematics with what the Titans do to Sargeras? How does that inform the start of Battle for Azeroth?
It doesn't.
We put a lot of time into thinking about
it really
how those
doesn't a lot
line up and how we can best tell those
like
stories.
That, and you guys fucked that up.
Like they're paying off and leading to something new.
No, absolutely.
You don't even talk to Sargeras?
Every expansion
it's been like 15 years.
all the way back to
you can at least say, hey.
Witch King. They all kind of felt more like,
hey, man,
everyth's fine.
Why'd you just why'd you decide to kill everything and everyone?
And, Legion was the first one
what's going on?
With that shot of looking up and like, oh, by the way, we might have, sealed off Illidan and the rest of the thing.
That's what
but there's a sword in our planet, right? So it's this cliffhanger of like, what's next? So it does create more of a sense of every
thing that nobody knows about
because
it's not told in the game.
Next, crisis, and that's kind of new. And I think it's taken some, an adjustment to feel out how it's going to play out, right, as we play through it.
Yeah, definitely. And so we think about that. So one of the other process things that we have is, obviously we have a lot of buildings, a lot of teams here at Blizzard, and one of the ways that our disparate groups kind of come together is kind of our weekly writers' room, as we call it. And so it's not that different from how TV shows are sometimes done, where you have the teams, the people from Cinematics team,
creative development,
the Quest folks, our creative director Alex Afraziabi is there. I'm there.
Animation leadership, all kinds of people.
Yeah, all kinds of folks in the room.
Okay,
no,
they don't care.
Together, and doing
just wanted
things
to ask
like,
a simple
hey,
question.
we have
that's
some cinematics plan. Let's go over the script and beating up those scripts and talking about them and saying, hey, this really worked for me, or this part, man, not quite right. What could we change about this wording here? Or
doing table reads where everyone takes a character and
so awesome.
have to put on the best, orc voice as we're speaking across the table.
That's so much fun.
Oh boy,
Christy gets to read Sylvana sometimes.
I don't know about
sometimes,
that, dude.
And she totally gets into it, and she's delivering those.
Yeah,
and Mark Messenger, he loves doing Sarfang.
He's a great Sarfang.
He is a great Sarfang.
A lot of the reference footage again in those behind the scenes, you'll see that they did live action cuts of Old Soldier, for instance. Although in Old Soldier he was Zappy Boy, but
well, you gotta break character sometimes.
These guys are happy.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think in Lost Honor,
I kind of like that.
All the reference footage was him playing Sarfang, and he did a great job in that live.
Like, imagine if everybody was like this happy about the
game.
Inspiration. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. So we do things in that room, like look at the storyboards that you guys come up with in the very early stages of like, hey, here's how we think that
you're getting paid to bullshit around.
Cinematic is going to flow, and we have that temporary voiceover over it, so that we can kind of see, oh, this is how those
we don't have to work today.
These things that were just ideas
talk to
in
some
our head
nerds
to
on
begin
Twitch
with,
chat.
how those actually are going to play out on screen, and then we can react to that and be like, oh, actually, what about this idea?
Yeah. And oftentimes that will then bounce back to the Quest team, right? Like once the cinematic is developed, the Quest designers will come together and look at the movie, and it'll spark all of the ideas on like, oh, this should happen after this movie. This should go to here, right? And so it's always a folding, like snake eating its tail kind of thing. It's never so clean as like oh, here's a slot to put a movie in, please, right? It's very much a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and like you say, it's really cool how the different team, the work that's done by the different teams fuels the ideas and creativity of the others. So, like you say, our Quest designers see some cinematic. We have regular team meetings, and we play this stuff that's in progress for everybody, and people go, "Oh, holy cow, that was so awesome!" Now, as I'm writing this next thing, I want to refer to that. I want to make this, and so it really is an iterative process, because then you see what's coming up next in the quests, and you're like, "Hey, for this next thing, we should really do this." And it's just great that we all come from this place of loving the game, loving this story so much, and having all these great characters to work with. And it's really about us, letting the characters tell us where they need to go, what's going to happen to this world, and then finding the ways to get them to where they feel like they need to go.
Yes. And over on my team, we have many different disciplines, from writers to editors to animators, modelers, everything working in concert with this stuff. And one of the teams that we've been working with lately is our cutscene team. Some individuals that have been putting together some of the smaller
some real
cutscenes in Battle for Azeroth that actually tend to feature your character.
Yeah.
What happened whenever we killed Gahoon?
That just came out very recently.
Nothing.
Cool Tyranids don't look at explosions.
They're like, oh, thank God we killed this Kmart version of an old god.
Top and best possible use of character insertion in a cutscene.
What do we get?
I would have to agree with
370
you.
helmet.
Credit for that, right?
Yes. So that's interesting. We have different types of cinematics. We have different names for them. We have the fully rendered ones like Old Soldier that take a really long time. time that we have all these people working on these very high fidelity models. We
high
have,
fidelity.
What we call in-game cinematics, IGCs, that are they're the character models, but models plus.
Yes.
So we get custom animations and things.
They need to do more of that, I think, because the character animations and the
like
models
old-fashioned FMVs, right? Like, it almost feels like it just kicks in. It's like, okay, this looks familiar.
They're too rigid to display emotion.
I
think in a lot of cases,
like the experience as not to be throw you out of the experience, right?
Yeah.
When you're playing the game, it feels like it goes seamlessly, and even though it is plussed.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's an example of that would be like Jaina being rescued from Thros, where we see Catherine and we see all those moments with Arthas and Dalen, the ghosts of all these, you know, Jaina's past and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
And it's we control the camera, we give you the shots, all that kind of stuff, and it really is.
That was
again,
actually this is one of the best cinematics they've ever made.
And character
in my opinion, I think this is one of the best in-game cinematics they've ever made.
Which
100%.
We are in-game cutscenes. And so those have a long history. Those have been in the game for a long time.
Yeah, if anyone remembers playing Cataclysm,
Uther, I'm glad you could make it.
Designers had used our vehicle technology to create some cutscene-like material, and the first time you walked into Oldham...
Oldham has one or two of those, I believe. Our designer Steve Burke, who worked on that.
Harrison Jones.
We have an admission.
Okay.
Designers tend to have this kind of new toy phenomenon where we get some new piece of tech, vehicles in Wrath of the Lich King. Vehicles are awesome. Let's put vehicles everywhere and vehicles inside vehicles. And then if you're transformed into a vehicle that's riding a vehicle, I can do this.
Yep.
And Cataclysm, it was really a lot new cutscene technology. And so
what was it in WoD?
Some of those Cataclysm zones that have a lot of cutscenes in them.
Oh, Stormouts,
but
that's
over
right.
time, we become more
We can just put more
seasoned with
Stormouts
these
in. There it
tools,
is.
and we learn that sometimes less is more.
Like any expansion, we look at what we did, and sometimes maybe you look at the cutscenes in Oldham and go,
selfie sticks.
that might have been too many.
It might be a hair over on that. Learning process, all of this is learning, trying to get better.
When we find what it should be, it starts to stratify and become very, very consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we've arrived in the last couple. Legion started feeling really good, and also Battle for Azeroth started feeling really good. And using them in the appropriate places. Right?
Yeah, and so some of those cutscenes are made by our designers because we've got to, they might want a quick camera sweep or something to show something that's an important element of the scene or something like that. But one of the great collaborative opportunity came up where you had your cinematics folks with the ability to work on some of our stuff in game, and that's another avenue of collaboration where we have these meetings where hey, here's the ideas that we have for these cinematics. What ones would really benefit from the trained eyes of the cinematics folks to really make them awesome? And we kind of go through and say, hey, you guys want to work on these? We'll work on these. It's a great process.
Yes. So kind of more recently, at BlizzCon, we revealed the Terror of Darkshore cinematic.
Oh yeah,
which was really exciting.
That was a good one, actually.
Revisiting the Night Elves, in all these years, I had never gotten to put Malfurion in
I actually really like this one.
Right? And so there was a lot of build-up, a lot of expectation. I feel that the audience was definitely, after the events of Teldrassil, feeling like the Night Elves needed to bear their fangs again. And that was principally the goal going into that cinematic, right? Is that we wanted to go back, we wanted to revisit those classic Warcraft 3 Night Elves, remind them of their ferocity, that in the dark of the forest we should really be afraid.
Night Elves in WoW are just so pointless.
That scene was a lot.
It's just Tyrande comes in, she's on her period every once in a while, every other expansion, and she's like, we don't want to do things this way. And they're like, get out of here, bitch. And then she goes back to her tree. And so, obviously they need to do more for it.
And it really got to help us introduce not only, some gravel
there it is.
Malfurion there, but as you play through
I'm not wrong.
a new side for Tyrande as well. And to really, it's when
Tyrande started listening to My Chemical Romance.
Night Elves went through as characters, seeing their home.
That's a mount, by the way.
Not just taken from them, but burned to cinders.
I really like how that's a mount.
It was tough.
I like that a lot.
And so we wanted to show how they were reacting to that. So we brought in, if you play through the Darkshore Warfront and the quest leading up to that, you see this this Murderer's Row of great Night Elf characters coming back and seeing their different perspectives on how they're reacting to things.
Like, talk about like Sylvanas or
something. Tyrande and Maiev after all these years, and all the stuff in their background to see them kind of acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was a great opportunity to like you say, put some teeth back on the Night Elves, show their reaction to things, and we thought, well, you know, that's a great moment. We have this transformation of Tyrande, that energy that she's calling upon, this dark side of Elune, how that infuses the other Night Elves in the Warfront. Hey, why not give that as an option to players? Allow them to tap into that power.
Character customization, yes.
Character customization.
Yes. And a lot of people were interested online in how exactly the players came to have the black eyes.
It is.
You know, the darkened
They
eyes.
should make a slider for how big your character's dick is.
I think that speaks to the power of that ritual, this ancient ritual that Tyrande taps into. Again, sorry, spoilers, but Tyrande taps into that ritual, that calling upon.
It'd be a good idea, right?
It's not even calling upon. She's demanding. She's like, give me this power. Yep. You turned your back on us as those so-and-sos took our home from us. Now you owe us. Yep. Give me this power. And that so infused her that it could change those elves. So
but she couldn't even kill Thanos.
To say, you know what?
A default undead. It was level 62 quest mob for like 5 years.
And if you'll notice at the Warfront,
she couldn't handle
NPCs that are Night Elves actually have the darkened eyes. So there's definitely a sense that in proximity, fighting on behalf of the darkened element of Elune under the darkened moon, that's what happens. And whether or not the player has customized themselves, that of course is player choice. But I think in the story sense that any Night Elf that is fighting on behalf of Elune in that confrontation, their eyes would be darkening.
Yeah. We did a similar thing in smaller scale for the Blood Elves, where we introduced golden eyes for them a few patches back. And that was more about thinking, you know, they've had the Sunwell for a long time. It was purified by the light. We've shown light-forged Draenei and things like that. And so it would make sense for them to be able to tap into that power as well. Sure. So we changed some of our NPCs, like Lady Liadrin, to use that customization. And we gave it to players to say, you know what, if you want to play that your character has been purified by this light-infused Sunwell, good on you. That's your choice. You can
which is excellent. Which gives us, you know,
that's a good thing
into the concept of player choice.
Well, that's an interesting subject that has come up a lot recently.
Finally,
in this
let's
most recent Tides of Vengeance update, most of all.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So again, as we kind of said before, the stuff that the Horde is going through at this time is pretty intense, and there are different perspectives on what the Horde is, what they stand for, what they should be doing, you know, and when you look back at the things with Garrosh, the result of that didn't really, you know, it cleaned up some stuff, but it didn't really fundamentally make the Horde look at themselves and really question, you know, what do we stand for? Where are we going?
Yeah, of course
and so Battle for Azeroth, that was an opportunity to say, all right, let's look at these things. Let's look at that old Horde that's in Sarfang. Let's look at that new Horde that's in Zakan and so many others.
Yeah.
And see what this War Chief is doing.
Where's Garrosh?
And let's let players think about that.
Just resurrect them.
And process their own reactions to
People will be kind of mad for like a day, but then it'll be good.
And finding a way to make
He'll
sure
be the
that
second undead
like
war chief of the Horde.
To express themselves, right? That maybe they don't want to feel like the story's been being completely determined outside of their own agency.
Right.
That actually is a really good point.
It's one of those things where
I like that a lot.
Had infinite time to show this world and how people react to it, I think that you would see a lot of different perspectives of what the person on the street is saying about what they think about Sylvanas. You know, you have to think of, we as players are going through this stuff and we're seeing all these big events and what's going on. The average person who's hanging out in Orgrimmar or Thunder Bluff, they hear news secondhand and things like that, and so their worldview kind of gets they might have a completely different perspective.
Well, that's why you have LFR, because everybody kills the last boss now.
That can be very challenging. Like just trying to remind even ourselves, we are players of this game. We have been playing this game for 14 plus years, and it's easy to fall into.
That's longer than me.
The perspective of everyone is that of a player who has seen everything, who has seen Dark God Titans, who have seen battles fought between the Dark Elemental Lords. You know, all these huge things. That's the normal perspective. No. You know, the average person who lives and has only heard tales of that. Maybe they're almost mythical to them, right? Yeah. And one example came up in the Terror of Darkshore when Shendruk the Orc is like, a Night Elf can't do that. A lot of people were initially like, what are you talking about? Of course a Night Elf could wreck a raiding party, which I would actually say, if you've ever 1v5'd in Arena, that's not quite exactly true.
Well, Malfurion's pretty good,
I think from the perspective of someone like Shendruk, this orc that maybe they've been on the border of Ashenvale and the Horde lands.
I really like
years.
what they're saying here.
And maybe they've had fights with Night Elves for years, but none of them have been the heroic level Night Elves.
I really like what they're saying.
Perspective, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've never seen a Night Elf be able to do that. Well, you've never seen Malfurion.
Perspectives are a big thing that people don't always take into account. We'll get back to the player choice thing, but a little tangent. But it's interesting in that, just like in the real world, everybody sees events happen and they kind of form their own story about it. And I think what happens sometimes, it's easy to look at the things that characters say within the world. You click on an NPC and it says something about this that happened or this that happened. You find a book. Think about it that somebody had to write that book in the world and things like that, and they might not have had all the information. So you've got this world of people who might say, oh yeah, well, Terralion, well, he's 8 feet tall and he has red hair and he has all this stuff. And
NPCs with partial information is really hard to write, I would assume.
Some
have it
canon just because a character within the world says it. Yeah, they have an impression. And so I think that sometimes people get fixated on that idea of like, well, it's in this book, it says this, and so. Well, that doesn't mean that everyone in the world knows that, or that it's even true, that there's perspective on everything.
There can be a difference between a character making a mistake and a writer making a mistake.
That's true.
Right? And sometimes it's hard to distinguish.
Yeah, it's the difference between Garrosh and
to be fair. But player choice.
Player choice,
Okay, here we go.
Specifically
This is important.
Quest lines pertaining to Zappy Boy.
This is what matters.
So again, we had those different perspectives on the Horde that we knew that players felt as well. And so this wasn't a matter of us saying, you know what, we're going to fundamentally change the way that questing in WoW works and everything's going to be these different paths and things like that. We decided that in this very specific case, we thought this was a good opportunity to enrich the story by letting players kind of pick, you know what, I really do kind of side with the war chief. I think that she's right, and I think that she's doing things for the right reasons, and that she's helping the cause that my character believes in. And then we also wanted those people who say, you know what, I think that Saurfang has the right path forward. We got to get those Horde values back to what
do you mean?
Before.
Like,
that's the
Saurfang's obviously the good guy.
So
Sylvanas is a bitch.
What we did was we looked at, okay, we have this moment.
What do you mean?
In the quest lines.
How's that even a question?
Tides of Vengeance, that we can really give like a crystallized.
Only Cucks would side with Sylvanas.
And then we started talking about, okay,
oh really?
So once that choice happens, how are we going to pay off those paths going forward?
Because they must be meaningful.
They must be meaningful.
The last thing we want is a choice that doesn't actually have any ramifications down the line.
Exactly. So while you get that initial reaction based on your choice when you go back to Sylvanas, and she's either like, really, Saurfang punched you in the eye, and that's about it, really? Like, she may be on to the fact that there's something more going on there. Or whether she treats you as a loyal subject who is on her side. We have thought about where those paths go, and we have some stuff in store that will make those feel like, you know what, I saw this through, and that choice mattered to me, and gave me a little something for my character. As a result.
But
sorry
much
about
like
that.
Cinematic implementation, the core importance is to use it when it's most effective and when it's appropriate, right? Like
Incel Saurfang?
It's a tool in our toolkit.
Yeah, Saurfang is leading the Incel army.
Choice is a toolkit. We don't
against the women of Warcraft.
Like, oh, this is what the game's going to be. It's like when it absolutely demands it. This is something we'd like to be able to use if it facilitates a richer, more invested story.
That's exactly right. So it's not something we're going to just sprinkle about willy-nilly throughout the game. This was a very specific scenario where we thought, you know what? This is an awesome moment. Let's really show some different perspectives on that.
Yeah. And it doesn't preclude us from doing it again when it's appropriate.
When it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So. Absolutely.
Excellent. So just as an aside, at BlizzCon, if you want to see some more on Terror of Darkshore and on Old Soldier, both Mark Messenger and I did an intensive walkthrough on both of those movies, kind of a behind-the-scenes director's commentary with Final Boss TV. You can check them out on YouTube and watch. Each one is over an hour, I think, where we really, really get down into the nitty-gritty on both of those things. No, it wasn't Old Soldier. It was Lost Honor. It was the two. It was the two that we released at BlizzCon.
Gotcha.
So if you want to see a behind-the-scenes director's commentary on
Old Soldier, Lost Honor, they're too they're too similar.
Great job guiding
you get
that
confused.
It gets really in depth on those two things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always awesome to me to see how people like Mark and just the whole team over there on franchise development really thinks about things and really thinks about the details of it, and like every moment matters. it's such a, again, we have these great characters that people have loved for years, and we want to do right by them, and we want to pay off those moments. And man, those moments.
Old Soldier was better. You're right.
How he's shown up so far, man, it would be great to have even more of those moments that bring characters to life.
There is so much story on its way.
Yeah.
Right. Just in less than 2 weeks, we have the Battle for Dazara lore dropping on live servers. I'm really excited because there are some moments in that people have not seen yet.
I'm excited because of the mount,
featuring some.
What are you doing there?
Featuring some characters that I'm just looking forward to it.
Wait, what is that insignia that he has on his shirt?
It was a lot of fun. The Battle for Dazara lore is going to be cool. I had the treat. Sometimes I get to write lines for the raids and things like that, and so I got to write a lot of the RP scenes in between some of those fights.
Oh god!
So I hope you like them. They're kind of fun.
Wow.
A few of them are a little over the top, but there's also some great moments in there. Again, no spoilers, but some pretty kind of heavy emotional moments and some things that will have repercussions on both the Alliance and Horde going forward, and how this conflict keeps playing out.
Absolutely. All those characters we've been building up all through Battle for Azeroth, all kind of like colliding here in a moment, and seeing some of the characters we haven't seen as much.
Yeah.
We do care because the gnome drops them out. Yo, dude, I can't wait to see the gnomes.
I seem to remember a Warbringer about someone who's under the sea, a mermaid or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. Sells tuna cans, maybe. I don't know. Something. I don't know. That person may show up. I don't know.
The old cods?
the old codgers.
That was actually good.
Refer to them. Yes,
that was good.
We got to see.
That was clever.
Experience Gahoon in the raid and
Odir. That was good.
And man, it just seems like those old gods just kind of are always lingering and always kind of rising up when you least expect them. Shadows.
Well, yeah, look at that guy.
So there's lots of cool story stuff coming forward.
The guy on the left, he's like a guy that picks his his daughter up from middle school.
We understand
and gets mad
that
at
the war between the Horde and the Alliance
not doing well enough in school.
We want that to culminate in something that's deep and meaningful as well. So we've got all these cool story threads that are coming, and we want them to really pay off and lead into the next thing to come.
Absolutely.
So we spend a lot of time doing that in our writers' room as well, thinking about that stuff that's coming forward.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just spent.
I could have come up with a better joke, but I didn't want it to come off as offensive towards him, and so that's why I kind of went with something that was really vanilla.
And a lot of the time is just spent making sure that we've fully wrapped our heads around what the challenges that we're facing are. Explored as many avenues as we can possibly find, and then really come to an
trying to be a good guy.
A direction to go forward on.
Can you do a push-up? I can probably do 20 push-ups.
It's so exhilarating to be a part of it, because again, we are just as excited about these characters. Everyone I know on the quest team, whenever I visit and talk to them, everyone lights up. Everyone wants to talk about these characters.
I could do like 50 whenever I was
all
in
night
8th grade.
We have long discussions. Definitely.
There is so much passion on the team and so much love for these characters, and we're always 100% doing our best to create the greatest story that we can bring to the player.
And that story sometimes necessitates that bad things happen to characters. But again, I always kind of think of when we're working on stuff, like storytelling on this game is almost like it has an element of archaeology to it, where you are sifting away the sand and you're uncovering as you're trying to
say that word.
Come on, man. Story, you're like, hey, actually, this is kind of guiding me. There's these touchstones. It's a discovery, and you have to do something that's true to the story. You kind of have to set aside, your own, man, I love this character and I don't want anything bad to happen to them. But man, the story really kind of demands that they get put under these pressures. And how are they going to react to those pressures? That's really one of the fundamentals of storytelling. And so sometimes that makes
it's not really choices,
better, but bad things happen. Bad things happen to good people in the world, Taryn. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we get touched by those things as well. And sometimes we have to make hard decisions and let Varian go in that moment and things like that.
Well, it was obvious you had to let Varian go because it would balance the alliance in a horde. Varian and Garrosh were balanced.
I think we recorded the VO for Varian at the Broken Shore like 3 years ago.
Wow.
I was like, time is just...
God damn. That's crazy.
It does. Blinking. What expansion are we in? What patch is it? How do we do that?
Especially having done them over.
Shit.
It's great. MMOs, telling stories in MMOs has always been a challenging thing because we've got these big lumps of content when an expansion ships.
Big drop
of content. Patch. And one of the things that we really worked on with Legion is to have that flow of story through these things, and that sense, like you said, of an unfolding narrative that leads somewhere. And we're doing that same thing with Battle for Azeroth. And sometimes it's hard to think. We've only really just got into the first major update for it with Tides of Vengeance, and there's so much more. We have in our heads, well, what's happening in this and this and this, and we've got all those things ahead, and it's hard not to talk about them. Sometimes we almost accidentally.
Every moment you're going, is that no? But I think in the terms of in Legion, right? Legion was established on the Burning Legion lore, and I think to a degree it's very intuitive, right? Like,
I would assume
a journey that you could almost imagine in your mind before it's happening, and therefore as it plays out, you're like, okay, I'm totally on board. We're going to Argus, of course we are, right? Like what else would we do? Right. Battle for Azeroth, I think is a little bit more in the fog of war, right? Like there's a little bit more of a trepidation as to like where is this story going, and it's challenging to answer any questions about that because those are spoilers, right? And the last thing we want to do is drop spoilers.
It is, and like you say, it is because people are so invested. Alliance, Horde, fundamentals of the game. They have been since the RTSs way back in the day. So people have years and years of that, how their characters connect to these big factions in the world. And so everyone's going to have opinions and those things that make them feel. And that's something we definitely want. We want players to feel that this conflict is real and that the stakes are high.
Well, that's good.
And sometimes people have to pay the price for the decisions they make.
Drama is
sometimes you get it, and sometimes you get got.
Victory without defeat, nor defeat without victory.
And not necessarily the best quote.
Players feel for these characters.
That's why having Christy join the team was such a win for us because she has so many novels under her belt of Warcraft, so many characters that
they don't think it be like it is
or brought to life,
but
that are in the game. So to have her bring that heart to those characters, and it's really cool because sometimes the cutscenes we do in game are written by the designers or myself, and sometimes she comes in for those high equity moments and writes them, and she obviously works on all the IGCs, those in-game high fidelity ones, but she just brings such a voice and such a heart to everything. It's awesome to have her on board.
So I think
she's great.
To wrap it up here momentarily, but just another shout out to our teams. All the writers that we work with, the
what
artists,
do you mean, dude?
Animators, quest designers.
Let's get some at least some questions or something,
there are
man.
So many people that you can't see because they're not here on camera, but it is such an intensely collaborative art form. Everything you see, just about made by Blizzard, has had many hands touch it, many impressions, many people who love this story. Working together to bring this to you.
I think if that would be if people can take that away from this little talk that we have, is that there is so much love and so much caring, and people who live and breathe this breathe the world. They live and breathe this world every day, and it's such a joy to us. It's such a privilege to be able to work and play within this space. We love the game, we love the stories, and these characters that fuel us and ignite our passions and our ideas every day. So thank you for being a part of that and for sticking with us through this journey, the twists and turns and all this stuff. We got way more twists and turns to come.
A lot more coming.
But our hope is that as you look back on Battle for Azeroth, once the last torch has been snuffed and all that kind of thing, the last funeral pyre lit, that you will see that that was a story that really changed the world and had a lot of heart behind it.
And we hope you enjoy Desara Lore going live in just a week and a half.
Yes, season 2.
That depends on how many mounts I get from it.
Tides of Vengeance update here. So that's really exciting. So have fun, be nice to each other, and
thank
have a great time.
Thank you for tuning in.
And we'll do more of these. And maybe we'll even answer more of your questions. Who knows?
What do you mean more?
Until next time.
Well, I guess 1 is more than 0.